You will sleep better than you have ever slept. You've never been this relaxed. Are you ready to change your life? I'm Rusty Diamond, certified hypnotist. You don't need to leave your house. You can stay in your bed. You can stay in your favorite chair. You just need a computer or your phone. You can get a hold of me. Stay at home. I'll make your life better.
Hypnosisisgreat.com.
It's Rusty Diamond, motherfucker. It's Rusty Diamond, motherfucker.
Yo, man. Well, Miss Rusty, what's up, everybody? I wonder if that boom clipped out. I haven't been that into a boom for a bit. So, welcome to the Public Access Podcast on the Rusty Diamond Podcast Network, the Podcast, Public Access PA, Pennsylvania, PA, out of Pennsylvania. What's up? Thank you, everyone, for being here. If you are listening and you would want to know what I or maybe the guests look like, go on to YouTube or Rumble. The show will be there unless it gets taken down, which some of the stuff has. What you gonna do? Or you can go on to any podcast place you want to if you don't want to look at me. But you can but you're like, I don't want to look at you, but I really like the content and I like his guests a lot, so I'm gonna listen instead of having to look at me. So that's cool too. I tell it that every time, but new people. So thank you everyone for being here. That's what I appreciate. So it's time for me to bring on my special guest, and my special guest is right here and right now. And right here and right now, I have my special guest, and my special guest is Laura Jurgens. Did I say that right? Because that was
Yeah,
what I forgot to ask you beforehand.
yeah, absolutely.
Okay, it's Laura. Yeah.
It's Laura.
Okay, okay, Laura
It's
Jurgens.
easy. It's nothing fancy. If you're in a
Okay,
Spanish-speaking country, it's Laura, but you don't have to do that.
right. Maybe I think I'm gonna stay here for the remainder of this show. Um, but I maybe later I'll take a trip out to some Spanish speaking country, but not
Give me a
now.
call. Yeah,
Okay,
awesome.
perfect. Yeah, that sounds
Hi,
like a good
everybody.
idea.
I'm
Hi,
happy to be here.
welcome. I'm happy you're here too. Thank you for doing this. It's yeah, it's the Friday show, whatever that means. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like I plan Friday shows, but then like I get to Friday, I'm like, oh yeah, I'm gonna do a podcast today, which is a good thing because I usually
Yeah, Friday's like fuck it Friday, right? It's like, whatever happens. It's good.
right. And
By
I'm
the time we get here, we're all like, we're ready for the weekend. Let's get into our early weekend vibes.
yeah, and that's why I'm like, I'll hop on a podcast. It's like, hell yeah, I'm gonna do that. Like I can do that before it's the Saturday or whatever. And I don't know. But I also like doing my Monday morning ones, get my Monday morning. I don't know, sometimes it's Monday afternoon, but I feel like that's a good time to hop in and get things going. I don't know, especially since I wake up at like 4 o'clock in the morning. So like getting to that morning part's pretty nice. Are you an early riser? Or is this
I
are you
am.
on the
I'm good. I'm good. I've been awake for a while. It's 9:15 on Friday, everybody.
okay,
We are
East
both
Coast?
awake. Yeah, East Coast time. We are good. I'm in Asheville, North Carolina. You're in Pennsylvania
Oh
somewhere.
shit. Yeah,
And I have coffee. So
perfect.
I've had coffee for a few hours. I'm sort of lingering on the last bit. So we are ready to rumble. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's the spot. That's where everyone should be. And yeah, and what you gonna do? So right off the bat, before I even get into what anything else, I wanted to ask you about this before I forget. So,
Okay.
are you familiar with Sue Johansson, or who Sue Johansson was? She had a show called the Sunday Night Sex Show, in Canada.
Not at
Um,
all. I don't think so. Tell me all
oh,
about her.
she is one of the coolest people I think I've ever seen. So she's dead. Uh, wasn't me. Don't worry. She was old. Um, but shout out. I think they should put her on they've been looking for someone to put on the Canadian currency, and or put something on it. And I think she should be it. Let me see if I can
Okay,
I
give me
can
your pitch for why she should
pull
be on the
up,
Canadian currency. Tell
because
us all about her.
she's the coolest old lady. So I had a girlfriend, like when I was in high school, and she was a foreigner, from Canada, and all the way up there. And it's like, you have to see this old woman. She has this show on TV. It was on like Lifetime or something at like 9 o'clock on Monday night, back like 25 years ago, something like that.
All right.
And it's been going on for a while, but yeah, she's man, I maybe I should just pull up some Sue Johansson. Um, one of the best things that I've seen, and just I don't know. I was let's see. Here's a 2 minute clip. Or is that just, oh, that's just remembering her and that she died.
Well, what did you learn from her? What was something
Oh,
that what was like a nugget that she left you
geez.
with?
Yeah, I don't know. That's a good question. That's a
I'm
good
interviewing.
question. No, I mean that's a good one. Let me here. I can pull this up. What's going on to Facebook? That's weird. Uh, Jeez,
All
I'm
right,
I'm
people. We are
failing at
we are
this.
so on the edge of our seats about Sue Johansson. I'm definitely going to look her up after this podcast, and
Right.
I will,
So
I'm sure, be really enthusiastic about this awesome woman who ran what, like a TV show on sex help or sex advice.
yes. Here we go. I think I got it finally. So I'll pull this up. I'll do a share screen here. I'm sorry. Okay.
Yes, but first I.
All
We
right.
have Susie on the line.
Can you
Hi,
hear it?
Susie. Hey, Sue.
Barely.
Hi, you have a question?
Okay.
Yes, but first I'd
There's
like to say that I love your show. I watch
oh, there
it
you go.
every week. Oh, thank you. I'm like everybody else. I think I'm addicted. But anyway. Okay, now, the
Oh,
other thing that you can do is.
I didn't look at what the
Good
the
job,
topic.
Sue.
Yeah. So
Good job, Sue. Yeah,
Sue
I've
is
talked to a
fucking
lot of women who are trying to
cool.
figure out, like, you know, everybody thinks that they're going to do some sort of, porn is made as entertainment. It is not normal human sexuality.
Absolutely.
It is actors acting.
Right.
And so people think they're going to, so Sue, on top of it, great.
Yeah.
You don't have to, like, if you're constantly gagging and trying to deep throat, you're not going to want to do it anymore. So, you know,
Good point.
not going to want to do it at all. Like, maybe that's a good
R-
job, Sue. Good job,
Yeah.
Sue. I
So
love her. She's
yeah,
great. So you loved
that
her too. And I'm sure she had all kinds of other great advice. And I just love that somebody was on Canadian TV talking openly and bringing
yeah,
out her dildo to demonstrate and
right.
not being shaming at all and
Yeah.
allowing people to have space to do that. That's so great.
Yeah, it's so, and then also, so then there was a love line too, but like that's not quite the same at all. Were you into Loveline
I
with Adam
remember
Carolla and Dr.
that from
Drew?
way back in the day, but
It's not the
I don't
same.
remember really anything about the quality of the advice. And they were very advice oriented. And
Right.
so okay, full disclosure, everybody, sneak peek preview. I am an intimacy and relationship coach, which we haven't said yet. So this is why Steve brought up
Not
Sue.
just going right to
Um,
it. Yeah.
but I don't give advice. I'm a coach. I don't give advice. I don't tell people sometimes want it, but I don't give it. What I do is help people figure out what they really want to do and get rid of whatever's in the way of them kind of following their own truth and values and things like that. Because I don't know what exactly is best for other people. I know what's best for me. Everybody
Yeah.
knows what's best for them, but they sometimes get confused about it because they have all these shoulds in their head from other people or from society or shit like that. So I think Loveline was kind of advice. And I'm not really a big fan of people telling other people what to do because even if they do it, they didn't do it based on what they wanted. They did it because they thought somebody else told them to, and they're never going to have the same outcomes because of that. Right.
And
And if
they're
they're
never going to
always going to
have the
like
same
question
decision
themselves or
making.
be resentful about it or wonder if it was really right because they didn't ever make the decision.
Yeah, and they're not going to have the decision making ability later. They're going to go and
They didn't learn anything. They didn't learn
right.
anything about how to make a decision for themselves in the future. There's zero empowerment there. So I think Loveline, all those things, it's like maybe if they give you another perspective, but I was too young and inexperienced to really remember what the heck they were doing on that show. And
Yeah.
know that I don't know how useful it was to people, but I know it existed. I kind of remember
Okay.
that whole
Yeah.
thing existing, right?
Yeah. So it was like mid to late 90s in there somewhere when it
Oh,
was
what
yeah.
was I doing in the mid?
And then
No,
and
I think
then
for me, it was
yeah.
like earlier than that. I remember sort of knowing it existed in my early teenage years. But then after that, I was pretty off the grid for much of the mid 90s.
What
So I
was
have
going on
no
in the mid
idea what was
90s?
happening with normal, like quote unquote normal people, because I was a crazy punk rocker, train hopping hobo at that point in my life. So yeah.
How was that?
Good and hard at the same time, like
Yeah.
anything in life.
What
There were great things
where'd you
about it. There
start?
was shitty things about it. How did I start?
Yeah, where did you start? Where'd you hop on?
Well, I hopped on the train to like independent child abandoned by both parents homeless land. And
Yeah.
then I hopped on the actual train because I wanted to go places and I had no money. And I met people who did that. And I learned how to do it safely, thankfully, because there's a lot of people who did it and really got very hurt. I would meet double amputees and people who
Uh,
listen to a boyfriend say, "Oh, it's totally fine to jump off a train when it's going this fast." Yeah, yeah. No,
uh,
no,
oh
it's not.
shit.
So, I learned, and this was also pre 9/11.
Sure.
And so there was different sort of security dynamics. You could still get caught and it was still sketchy and you still had to really know what you were doing. Um, but and I don't really recommend it to people. It is
Yeah.
very unsafe if you don't know what you're doing. But I was a pretty,
You knew what you were
desperate
doing?
16-year-old, and I also was very cautious. So I learned, right? And
Yeah.
I got to go cool places and across the country and see some places in the middle of nowhere that people probably haven't seen. So
Like
that was
where?
cool. Well, I took this one train ride between Washington State, like Seattle area, and Minneapolis.
Oh
And
shit.
I went through,
Okay.
after you get through Spokane, you get to go through sort of some really cool landscapes,
Yeah.
all
Don't
this
tell people.
super beautiful places, right? Well, you can go there on
Right.
passenger trains too. So there's passenger trains that run across in an Amtrak. So that's how I would recommend That's going to be the safe way where you don't get any limbs chopped off, you don't get, thrown in jail, and that's really good because I'm not kidding about the
Yeah.
limbs chopped off. That's not super uncommon. So I did get to go some cool places, but you can go on passenger trains.
Oh, yeah. If you're into that kind of thing. Um, so when you were up there in between Spokane and Minneapolis, like yeah, I drove up that way. I think I took sort of that route. Um, I don't know. When I went, because I moved out to Minneapolis.
Yeah, so
Uh,
Montana, you go through
yeah,
Missoula, just a lot of really beautiful, beautiful landscape and through the
yeah.
Rockies. Mhm.
And then North Dakota, you go through North Dakota, and it's North Dakota was interesting. Like it was weird. Like as soon as you leave Montana and you get into North Dakota, it like the whole landscape kind of changes. It was a weird experience. But I don't know. So
Yeah,
then,
it's travel, right? There's
yeah,
always sort of surprises, and then there's places in this such a big country, the US. There's places in this country that, they just go on for a really long, really long while. I feel like North Dakota is one of them.
yeah, yeah. It was okay. All right, here we go. We're going through it, and yeah, it was a long drive. It was a
Yeah,
long
so that
drive
was
to
many
me.
that was many lifetimes ago in different phases of my life. But yeah, I think the early mid 90s was kind of a time when I have different cultural references than a lot of people.
Me too. That's why I can't have younger people on here too often because then I start talking about stuff that's more relevant back then, and like I don't know what that means. It's kind of hard in comedy when I think a lot of my jokes were are based on people my age. Funny for some of those people, but uh, trying to tell it to younger people that don't get it. I don't know why I'm trying to tell jokes to people who wouldn't get it anyway. That there's that whole thing then too. But so are you from the West Coast?
No, I'm originally from the East Coast. I grew up mostly outside of Philadelphia
Oh, okay.
and
What?
then kind of moved around a bunch. Wound up in the West Coast when I was 16 and lived in Northern California for quite a while, like San Francisco Bay Area.
Okay.
And
All
then
right.
I moved. So I just moved to Asheville, North Carolina last year. Before that, I was in Houston for 4 years, which was a bit of a bummer for me because I'm an outdoors person and it's like the surface of the sun with humidity there. So cool city, but not very
Yeah.
great for outdoorsy stuff. So here I
Right.
am back on the East Coast.
Um, so then what kind of outdoorsy stuff are you doing then?
So if you've ever
If
been to Asheville, you'll know there's lots of mountains.
right.
And they're not huge mountains, right? They're like East Coast baby mountains. They've been around for so
Yeah,
long that they've been worn
uh,
down. But
bigger hills.
we have some, decent ones. Mount Mitchell's, I don't know, 6,600 feet. So there's a lot of hiking. There's a lot of rivers. So it's, a lot of there's just kayaking on the rivers or hiking, biking, that kind of stuff.
So are you
If
out
you're an
doing all
outdoorsy
those?
person, I'm out doing all that stuff all the time. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Getting your kayak on
A
and
little bit of snowboarding in the winter if we get some snow.
oh shit, okay.
Yeah, I taught
Um,
myself how to snowboard in my mid 30s, so it's not too late, people. Just get a
right.
helmet and maybe shove a pillow down your pants, which is what I did.
There you go. Where was that?
Tahoe.
The, oh, okay. So then you had some nice snow there. Got pretty decent spot there. And okay. Yeah, it's not I was thinking you were gonna say like so I saw uh when I was in Minnesota, like the snow there or the skiing there was interesting. There was one that was like off the side of the highway. It was just one hill, and that's like where everyone seemed to go that was down. Where was that? I think I want to say that was in Burnsville. And then like in Bloomington there was a hill that people do cross country skiing, and then there was a like a down one of those ski jump things that like you go
Those look crazy
in
to me. I saw one in Lake Placid that I think was built for the Olympics, and
probably.
it looked like if you went down that, you could have jumped across half the town. It was just so big. I
Yeah,
can't believe
it's
people,
you
I
don't
can't believe
realize.
people do that.
Yeah, it's big. It's really big. And it's like, what, where are they going? How are they landing? How are they not blowing out their knees when they land? Um, I
Yeah,
don't
well, I
know
think
that.
maybe some of them do, or they break their necks or something, but somehow
Right.
many of them manage not to. I'm guessing they start much smaller, but I don't know
Yeah.
anything about ski jumping, so let's not ask me about that.
Yeah, who knows? Who knows about ski jumping? Call in here. That's what I wish. I wish that sometimes the call-in shows were still, but now it's different. Like between the call-in show or a going back to the call-in show for a callback to the callback show. Um, like I remember public access shows, and there were some things you could call in, but it was interesting. It's different than people being online and commenting while something's going on through typing and seeing text on there. It's not quite the same. The random call in is always something kind of interesting.
Yeah, it was a different culture. For those of you who haven't been around during call-in shows, it was actually really kind of nice too. There wasn't this sort of kind of aggressive commenting kind of culture. It
Right.
was like people would call in with genuine questions and there would be a genuine exchange and it was pretty nice actually.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you get to kind of relate to these anonymous people. And I think there's some of that sometimes still, right? Like so in my sphere in the like I mean he does totally different stuff than me, but for example, like Dan Savage has some great um, call in type stuff on in his
Yeah.
in his world that he does, which is really great. You get to kind of relate to people's problems or people's issues, even if you don't know who they are. They're a little bit different from you or very different from you. Yeah.
There's still someone who's calling in too. There's someone who's gets to talk and gets to, 'cause that's what it's about. It's about
Yeah,
letting
it's like
anyway, like,
everybody struggles, right? It's this moment of like,
right.
okay, look, there's other people out there who are wondering if they're crazy, just like me.
Right. Yeah. Are they? And like, okay, yeah, I'm okay then. They're okay. They seem to be doing okay. They're calling into to
Yeah.
this radio show. They're doing good. Um, I mean, then you get to older and you're like, okay, well, I guess I'm all right. Uh,
It is a
I can
nice thing
call into
about
a
being
radio
older.
show.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of nice. Like, okay, we're good. We're good. We can work on ourselves, but we're good. Like,
Yes. I
which
do
is
feel, I
cool.
guess some people, okay, so for example, my mother is like 79 and has never gotten to that point. So some people don't ever kind of do the work on themselves to calm the fuck
Fig
down.
yeah,
But many of us, we actively engage in learning skills to feel better. And then as you get older, you just feel better and better. So I think this is like a weirdly unsung secret for younger generations that it feels way better to be 40 than it does to be 20. Hot take.
yeah, yep. I'm right with you on that hot take. Like when I was 20, I was a dipshit. So, like and I was yeah, I didn't know how to control any of what was going on with me. Like I like not control, but like
Yeah, sort of manage your emotions,
yeah,
right?
manage
They're
my
just sort of
emotions.
all
Like
over the place.
yeah, and I don't know why I did that or what it was that happened that I do a certain thing because of something and then like I just instinctively do something then after that and then what do you do? Like that's your instinct and then so then you learn. You get older. So get older at some point. It's okay to get older. Yeah, when you're a little wiser. You know, it's stupid. It's so weird that like I don't know. I think 40 is still pretty young. I feel pretty young for for what
Yeah,
it
every time
is.
you get a little bit older, you're like, oh, this doesn't feel old.
Yeah.
But back when you were in your 20s, you're looking at people who, I'm 40, I just turned 46, and you're looking at
Oh,
people who are 46 and you're thinking, oh man, that's old, right? And
yeah.
I would just say, you need to get some people who are friends who are older ages from you. When I was working in a bakery once way back in, I don't know, I was 19, and there was a guy who worked at the bakery with me. We'd be there, we'd get there at 3 a.m. to make these epic
Oh
pecan
shit.
rolls, which involved so much
Nice.
butter. It was shocking. But, we'd sit there and we'd just shoot the shit. And he was 50 and I was 19. And it was so fun to have a friend who was older. He was like, I'm 50, but I still feel on the inside like I'm 35. And
Yeah.
I just look older now. And that at the time it blew my mind. And now I'm like, of course.
Yeah. It's
But back
still
then
the
I was,
same.
what? You still feel the same. You don't feel different you don't. And he's like, no, no, I just, probably a little chiller. But
Yeah. You'll get
people
there.
are still out doing fun stuff. People are still, doing their whole life at any age. I work
Right.
with couples who are in their mid to late 70s sometimes, and they are, working on their sex life and, going out and having a great time. And, maybe there's a couple things that are not working as well as they used to, but by and large,
Yeah.
I think they're much happier people.
Yeah. I mean, I see them at places. I see them at the pools, and uh,
Yeah.
that's and like, yeah, it's what it is. I mean, you're still a person. You're still a person. You still do person stuff, and you're just there more with it. And so, like, are you doing in person work? Or are you doing Zoom calls or
I do both. Yeah. So
okay.
I work with people all over the world over Zoom, over the computer. We can do a lot that way. And then I also work with people locally in Asheville, either because they live here or because they've come in for an in-person intensive or something like that, where we're doing
So
more in-person work with more sort of like exercises that are easier to do in person. Yeah.
what do you mean by that?
What
You
do
don't
I
have to
mean
get it.
by like in-person
Yeah, like
exercises?
having, yeah, like in-person exercises are like what, you, what the advantage of being there in person to a Zoom call would be.
Yeah. Well, I think in general things just work a little faster in person. We can do a lot online, but there are a few things. So if I'm working with an individual, for example, and not a couple, where I can direct them to practice some touch together, for example, over Zoom. If I'm working with an individual, I just had a client come for, an intensive last weekend. And so she and I were working with helping her figure out how to notice what she likes and say it. I know that sounds simple, but for a lot of women, we are socialized to focus on pleasing everybody else and taking care of everybody else. And also women are shamed so much around their sexuality or even having preferences or having desires that you can get to, I don't know how old she is. She's in her 50s. But just like me, I could get to in my 40s and actually not really know what I wanted or how to ask for it. So in that case, an in-person work where all my work is clothes on and it's not genital touching, which, I leave to the sexological body workers or the sex workers of the world. And if that's what you need, that's great. It's just not what I do. But I
Yeah, I'll
do
refer
like,
you off.
yeah, so I'll refer people elsewhere. But there's a lot we can do with touch on, just like the arms or the hands or the face, right? For example, or a leg, and just helping people understand, okay, what do I like? Where are my boundaries? How does this feel? How do I communicate that? And practicing actually communicating, asking for what you want and having it received really well, including when you offer feedback, like, okay, I don't want it that hard or I don't want it that soft. Could you do this differently? Experiencing somebody who is like, thank you. Great. I'm so glad that I can do it the way you want it instead of getting all butt hurt and stuff, which is what happens in a lot of relationship dynamics where you're
Right.
like, a little lighter, please. And then your partner is like, I'm not doing it right. You don't love me, blah. Right. So
Yeah.
actually having the experience of practicing positive communication and going through that, it's really helpful for people to practice and gain confidence.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, communicate. Don't get butthurt. It's okay. Like it's okay.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
uh,
yeah.
you're
It's like if your partner, if you're somebody who's really defensive about somebody asking for what they want, then that means that you're hanging too much of your self-validation on doing everything right and getting your pleasure from how they respond to you
for someone
instead of
else.
letting them have their own experience, have their own preferences, right? And just getting pleasure from actually being connected or from the things that you're experiencing,
Right.
right?
Right.
So those are some dynamics that are really common in couples that we work on.
Um, I mean, yeah, it seems like it would be something that I don't know. So like if someone is gonna come to you, are they like are they usually at a point when it's kind of like do or die time, or are you getting people that are like getting into a relationship and then it's like, hey, I want to try this. I don't know how to whatever.
Yeah,
I need
it's
help.
a really good question. And it really depends on the person. So some people won't get help until it's do or die time. And then
Yeah,
everything is harder, everything is more fraught, right? And it feels super scary and urgent and like I'm going to lose my relationship tomorrow. It's not the best time to go get help, but it's
yeah,
better than not getting help at all.
right.
But then there's people who are very proactive and they're like, you know what? My love life, my relationships, my connection, whether I'm partnered or not, this really matters to me. And maybe they've just gotten divorced, right? And they're like, I want to start dating again, but I don't want to do it the same way I did it last time. They're
Yeah,
like, I actually want to figure out how to do a better job of showing up as me, picking people who are going to like me as me, right? Figuring out what's going to be compatible and what's going to really bring me joy, figuring out intimacy so that I don't feel lost in the woods kind of thing, or that I'm trying to do it based on some idea of porn or media or whatever. So people will come to me whether they're partnered or not who are proactive. The I've also got great, some people will come in the beginning of a relationship and say, we really like each other and we really don't want to fuck this up. So can you help us
interesting.
not
Yeah.
repeat all the patterns of our past relationships?
Who are those
And
smart people?
those people are so smart, right? And it
Those
is
are the people.
worth it.
Yeah.
It is so
Yeah.
worth it for them. And then they walk away knowing how to repair conflicts instead of pretending they're not going to have them, right? They
Right.
walk away being able to communicate about sex and their desires and about things they want to try, being able to kind of know what their partner might want to try and what they might not want to try and how to bring it up and just to work through all that stuff. They come out knowing, if they're losing some sex drive, it's not your it's not your hormones, most likely. It's very rarely your hormones.
Yeah.
And it's not all like women tend to think everything is our fault. So whether we have a higher sex drive or a lower sex drive than our partners, and then if you have two women in a partnership, it's even worse. Like everybody thinks everything's their fault.
Oh
So
yeah.
if it's like my libido's lower or my libido's higher, it's either because something's wrong with me, right? And then It's like spirals. So they know that's not the case. They learn, okay, what are the common causes? How do I prevent them from happening?
Right.
And then they kind of, I love to watch them wander off and have wonderful relationships and great lives. And sometimes they send me little notes in my email inbox, or one time I got flowers. It
Oh
was really
shit.
fun.
That's a good day.
I actually got flowers from the partner of my client. It was like,
Okay.
thank you so much, my partner. He is now extra awesome, and I really appreciate it.
Yeah.
So I love it when people are proactive. I do help people when they're in the crisis, but it's not really the best time, right? If you
Right.
can catch it earlier, even if it's where you're just sort of stressed and anxious about your relationship situation or intimacy, if you notice that you're stressed and anxious about it, you might be kind of, a lot of people sort of shove it down. They don't know who to talk to, so they just kind of shove it down. But that's
Yeah.
when it's a good time to reach out.
Right. And I mean, it's fucking, and like you were saying too, with the you know, figuring out from before, like learning from before to bring that into later. So like you said, if something happens again, like you can react better. You can uh move forward in a better way. And I mean, you can't, it's gonna happen again, like, but then just
Yeah, whatever we've been doing in the past, we always take with us, right? We always
right,
pack all of our emotional baggage on our next trip.
right.
So
And so if
it's not like we can
yeah,
pretend we're not going to repeat the same patterns if we don't learn a new way.
right. And so I mean that's what you do. So then they call you up, maybe they page you or something, uh hit
I
you
do
on
not
the
have a
sky
pager.
pager.
No, it's
No,
not
okay.
the old-timey days.
Okay.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean it's good. It's to get ahead of it. And then even like if it's, at that point of no return, but like, yeah, I don't know, maybe it works, maybe it doesn't for them with whoever they're with or whatever they're doing then, but they're going to learn something for later on down the road. And so, or, if they're with
Yeah, I think
someone
it's
else,
just
then
as
like,
important, right, to learn, okay, what can I fix? What can't I fix? And what do I want to do about it? And
right.
sometimes if you're in a crisis point, it's people are just, they get stuck, right? I don't know what to do. And so I'm just going to be stuck for years sometimes. And it's better to just figure it out, right? What can I fix? What can't I fix? What do I want to do if about the things that I can't fix? And sometimes that means breaking up, and that's okay. It's better to know than to sort of stick our heads in the sand and pretend that we actually want to be with this person forever when we don't. But,
Yeah.
not everybody's always ready for that either. So we go gently. It's important to go gently with a lot of things
Yeah.
in life. And this is
Right.
one. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, and so, I mean, like, what else? Like when you go on podcasts, you go on a lot of podcasts then? Like you make your podcast
Yeah, so I
rounds?
have a podcast, Sex Help for Smart People. And then I also go on and just guest on other podcasts sometimes because it's fun and I like it. And I love helping, just helping and collaborating and seeing if there's ways that we can serve the audience together or even just have a good time.
Yeah. And I mean, are like, so I mean, like when you go on to other podcasts, like, are you getting like kind of the same questions ever? Or, like, I don't want to like, do people ask you the same sorts of things? Like, are there certain things like, so if people like, if I'm a hypnotist, people always ask me the same few things. Not always, but a lot of the times if I'm getting asked about being a hypnotist,
What are the
um,
what are the top two
well,
things they ask you?
uh, like, oh, like you get people to stop smoking cigarettes, and do you make people like, are you gonna make me cluck like a chicken?
Yeah,
Like
I
those
thought
are
you might get a chicken question. I had
all the
I
time.
had a bet with myself that one of those answers was going to be a chicken question.
It's amazing. It's amazing how many people ask that question. They're like, oh, like, I
Yeah.
don't know.
No,
If
I
you
don't
want
actually
to,
get the same questions really too
cool.
much because I talk to people. There are so many different aspects of relationships and intimacy that people have questions about.
Yeah.
And I also just talk to people from different perspectives so much. So they all have kind of questions just based on their own personal history or what they've observed. Or, you asked me about Sue. I've never been asked about Sue
Cool.
before, but she was somebody who stuck
Uh,
out in your mind, right?
yeah,
So,
I hope
yeah.
you do a little at least watch an episode of the Sunday night sex show at some point or
Oh yeah, I'm
there
already a fan, so I
oh,
will check
okay.
her out, but I'm glad she
Yeah.
existed in the world.
Yeah, me too. And it was one of those things okay. One time she was on an episode of Conan um a long time ago and it was her and Tom Selleck and the Big Show, who was like this wrestler guy who's real big. And it's I think my favorite Conan moment, like just the four of them together was so random and great. But I don't know. I
That
could
would be
go
a good
probably
dinner party, right? So it
right.
sounds so good. Yeah, I would have
Yeah.
loved to hear her give some advice to Tom Selleck or something.
Right.
I don't know.
Yeah,
In
her and
my
Tom
mind, that
Selleck
seems
together.
so wonderful.
Yeah. Do you do if you go into a dinner party, what what happens when you go to a dinner party? What
Oh,
if you get
yeah. So
small talk?
I do get asked about, and it's interesting because I've had multiple careers. So I used to be a science professor and I would get asked a lot of sciencey questions. And I still sometimes get asked sciencey questions, which is totally fine.
Yeah, I don't
And
know
then
much about
now
science.
I'm a nerd in all kinds of ways, right? So
Sure.
I can nerd out about all kinds of things. I'm
That's
like a pan nerd.
yeah.
Except for anything about video games. Do not ask me. I have no idea. Unless it's
Okay.
like Atari from the 80s and then I kind of remember vaguely, but otherwise don't ask me. So I
I'll
get
remember that.
asked a lot about um I do get asked some questions about other people's sexuality. A lot of people want to sort of like asking for a friend kind of thing, right?
Okay.
They're
Yeah.
like, "So
Yeah.
what about this hypothetical situation that clearly has nothing to do with me?"
Yeah.
So
But I'm just
people
curious.
are so afraid to talk about their relationship and intimacy challenges because we've got this stupid idea that we're supposed to quote unquote know already. Like, I should just know. It's somehow like natural. And I'm like, nothing about human interactions these days is really that natural. We grow up in we're heavily socialized. We are advertised to from the cradle. We're consuming all kinds of media. We've had a culture that is based on Puritan religion, right? We have
Yeah.
so many things working against us as if to make us so that we shouldn't really know. I mean, sex ed in the US, we don't
Oh,
even, it's
yeah.
horrible if you even get it and they don't just say don't have it, right? But if
Yeah.
they do give it to you, there's not a single sentence about women's pleasure in sex ed ever. I've never
I
met I've never met someone who's ever had any education about women's arousal in sex ed. So
yeah.
we're talking like at least 50, more than 50% of the population is completely ignored. And there's nothing about sort of, you know, communication. We don't get communication in relationship school, right? So
Right.
so people feel like they should, but of course you shouldn't. You need help. I needed help. Oh my gosh, I was a babe in the woods. I knew nothing. And the reason I even do this job is because it was so helpful for me to learn all these skills that I wanted to teach other people.
It is,
So I do
yeah,
get questions, but they're often oblique, right?
yeah. Huh. Well, okay. Tell me about your friend.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. And so there's just, yeah, I mean, it's something, yeah, that I wish didn't have so many stigmas around, even though like I mean, they're starting to, I think, get dropped, but like, I don't think so. I think it's more of like, it's more dropped in society than I think it is in real, real life, I guess. Like, I think there's still a lot of people that need to, like, I think anyone can fucking benefit from it. Anyone can benefit from more, like, the more you know about yourself and the more you know about whoever you're with, the better. Like, it's stupid not to. Um, you're not 20 years old and just doing whatever you're doing. Like, you might be 20 years old if you're listening to this, probably not though. But I mean, yeah, you need to keep evolving. You can't, and like,
It's way more fun
it's
too. It is so much more fun to keep learning about yourself, to keep learning
right,
about, how to connect more with other people
right. And
and to keep learning about how to be honest and open, And so many people in all these like relationship forum places, I pop in sometimes to these Facebook
ooh,
groups or something to just like
oh
offer
shit.
a little
What?
flavor. And I just see everybody's trying to kind of fake their way out of stuff. Like they're asking advice about, well, my boyfriend did this and that and the other. And it's like, well, go sneak onto his phone and then, instead of just like having an honest conversation,
Yeah.
there's all
What
this crazy advice
when
coming
that
out at
happens, that's
people.
already you're already past that point of no return. That's like,
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. But, you know, just some, it is sad how hard it is for people to be authentic in their connections and many aspects of life. And then
sure.
in our closest relationships, yeah, it really is a game changer. It feels really good to be able to just have
Yeah,
open, honest communication with yourself and with your partner. It's fun. It's
right.
worth it.
And yeah, it's nothing gonna hurt you, which is another thing. Like it can only help. There's no downside to it. Or
Yeah,
are you
it
gonna prove me wrong
feels,
here?
no, I think overall you're right. Yes, there will sometimes be people who will reject you. That's a fact of
Sure,
life.
but that's
There,
okay because there's a lot of people who won't.
but there's a lot
And
of people
it's
who won't, and it's people are less likely to reject us when we're being open and honest, even though it feels more like we're terrified of what happens when we're being open and honest. If I really, one of the hardest things I ever did was tell my partner that I wanted an open relationship. Right? It was like,
yeah,
that was what was
and
true for me. And it was terrifying. And I felt like I was going to die. My nervous system was telling me I am going to die, like that it is the scariest possible thing. Because what if my partner didn't like that and said no? And then I had to decide who I was going to hurt, what I was going to do. It was a very scary moment. So people do have a lot of emotional fear, but honesty and openness and doing it kindly, of course, which sometimes takes practice, but it's less risky because people actually than just like sort of bottling everything up and just building up a bunch of resentment and then just sniping at people all the time because you're
right.
not actually being honest about what you want. You know, it's liberating, and when people are vulnerable, other people relate. So it's usually safer, but it just doesn't feel safe.
Yeah. And it will. It will. You'll get to it, or you'll feel better. Maybe not right away, but
Yeah,
um,
it's kind of like pulling out a splinter, it's like it's a little scary, but it's really nice to get it out.
Yeah, and then you're like, oh, okay, yeah, there was that thing there, but like it's gone. I feel okay now. This works out. I'm good. I'm good. And so if people want to feel good and work with you or find you or listen to you or find your work, where are they going to do that?
Yeah, so you can either go to my website, which is just my name, Laura Jurgens, LauraJurgens.com. Super easy. Or you can find me on my podcast, which is Sex Help for Smart People. And it's
Cool.
everywhere that podcasts generally are.
Yeah, unless you're, like I said, unless you're some hipster that's got some secret podcast hosting place, then it might not be on there. But uh,
Yeah, that's like your own damn problem.
yeah, that's that's what I'm saying. I'm
Apple
on enough.
Podcast,
Yeah,
Spotify,
right.
whatever.
If you can't make one of those two work, I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah, that's
Yeah, one of those two are pretty
90% of where
easy.
people find stuff.
Yeah,
So yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Don't tell me about your podcast hosting thing or not hosting, but hosting or
Yeah, I guess.
wherever. Like
I don't know. Just
it's
sex
not.
help for smart people. Hopefully
Yeah,
you can
that's
remember that.
all you
And
need to know.
just you'll find it. And if you don't find it, then go to my website. And you'll
Right.
find the link. Yeah.
LauraJurgens.com.
Yep.
And perfect. Cool. Well, thank you so much for being on. It was, yeah, great to talk with you and meet you. And yeah, and I'm happy I got to show you Sue Johansson. So um
Yeah, I'm
yeah,
so glad you
that's all
did.
I got. Yeah.
She got a
So
new
yeah,
posthumous fan. Yeah.
perfect. Yeah, and
Awesome.
that's the time. That's the time to get it. Like she'll never know. She'll never know how much. She'll never know she had people talking about her on a podcast today. So
That's what
um
legacy is all about, right? When you put stuff out
yeah,
in the world and you like work to help people, sometimes you have no idea who is going to be impacted. It's kind of one of the cool things.
yeah. And so yeah, and so yeah,
There
and
we
that
go.
get a hold of
Thanks,
Laura.
Rusty.
Yeah, you're welcome. Have a great day.
You too.
All
Bye.
right. Bye. All right, Laura Jurgens. Yeah, dude, fucking hit her up. Go go do some talking. Find someone. Find someone. That's a cool thing. Like, why not go do that? Make your life a little better. Not wrong making your life a little better. Ain't gonna hurt anything. So I say do it. Uh what would King do? What would Jimmy King do? So yeah, you guys, thank you for being here on the Rusty Diamond Podcast Network. And that is the show, man. Boom.
It's Rusty Diamond, motherfucker. It's Rusty Diamond, motherfucker.